And welcome back to Taxation is Theft, the show that talks about all the ways the government is ripping you off and what you can do about it to save yourself from that trouble of government theft and coercion and oppression. Broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube from an underground bunker deep within the jungles of Mexico, I am Dan, Taxation is Theft Berman, former candidate for President of the United States, currently in the race for governor of Texas. And today I've got with me Ian Peake, who is running for the Illinois State House of Representatives, which is always really awesome because, if you think about most of where government affects you, a lot of it is state law, and that's what the state house controls. This is, even though cannabis is a federal crime or federally illegal, it is your state who decides to arrest you for it. It is your state who creates most of the taxes that you're going to be paying outside of your income tax. So many other things. This is actually a really important position, and you should know who your state representative is. But before we get started, if you're watching the live streams right now, please make sure you like and share and comment. Comment with your questions. Ask your questions as we go on this show, or your comments or your funny quips, whatever you feel like doing. It just makes the show more entertaining for you, because we'll actually answer your questions. But, of course, share and like and do all that kind of stuff because we want your friends to listen too, because no point in hogging all this liberty for yourself. Share it with somebody else. And, of course, head on over from your other computer. Don't stop the live stream. Go to taxationistheft.info and check out our awesome swag while you're listening to this. It'll really trip you out if you do them both at the same time. I swear. It's an amazing illusion, optical illusion, mental trick. I don't know. It's doing something with your brain. Try it. Everything you buy over there goes to help our efforts to spread the news that taxation is theft around the world and to end government oppression. Yes, not just in the United States. We actually have support from around the world. It's really awesome. And we are running huge counter-propaganda campaigns to get this information out there. And we are changing the world. So go help us out. Support us over there. But for now, on to the show. Ian, welcome. How's it going?
Better now. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I told people to put in comments, and I'm trying to read this first comment. First, second, third, fourth. First, second, third, fourth. First, second, third, fourth. Question mark. I was thinking this was going to be like a First Amendment question. But yeah, okay, no, I guess not. What's your favorite amendment of the first four?
Of the first four? Oh man, that's tough. They're all great. Let's go with the third. It's the most underrated one. Nice. It's the one that gets violated the least. So it's probably the strongest amendment we have running right now.
Well, I mean, they don't really. I mean, it's not like there's a huge that's not a big, thing.
It's not, but it's a victory. It's the one amendment that gets violated by far the least. I know I myself violate the 18th Amendment all the time. So
nice, but I mean, if they had more reasons to violate the Third Amendment, they totally would. It's not like they're like, oh yeah, we respect the Third Amendment, and therefore we're not going to just totally throw it away. But it is in
that context, I guess I'm going to have to go with the First Amendment. It would be my favorite from the first four. They're all really important, but the First Amendment, that's the reason that we can hang out here on Zoom today, and your audience has something to do.
Oh yes, but it is not the reason that we are getting censored on Facebook and YouTube. not censored, but whatever their algorithm magic is.
Throttled, yeah, throttled. I think the word is.
Throttled. Desiree says birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real, and birds are actually a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights.
But you're in public. The birds don't go into your house.
They stare into your windows. I know
They
people that
can.
have pet birds.
I suppose they can. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, speaking of which, this is really interesting. And speaking of Illinois, I'm going to relate this to Illinois because this has to do with school programs, and I know a teacher in Illinois. So totally has nothing to do with Illinois. It's really the whole country. But speaking of birds, pet birds surveilling your house, your kids have laptops with cameras and microphones that are being turned on. So government agents pretending to be educators can eavesdrop and monitor your children throughout the day. I know I made that sound a little bit more sinister than it is, but that's pretty fucked up, isn't it?
It is not ideal. Yeah, not by any stretch of the means. Especially when you think of like how many teachers get in trouble for sex crimes against their students.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, I saw
Yeah,
this kid that was he had a BB gun in his bedroom, and they called the cops on him.
yeah, yeah. I saw that. Yeah,
And it's like, guys, he's not at school. Like, are you gonna like he's got like a Metallica poster on his wall, or like a God forbid a Bad Religion poster. I remember when I was in I think it was middle school. There was this big kerfuffle over somebody wearing a Bad Religion because it was Bad Religion, and their like one of their album covers was like a cross or an upside down cross or something.
yeah.
And so the
Great
teachers
band,
who
by the way.
have yeah, and the teachers who have absolutely no culture, they were like, "Oh, he's trying to say Christianity is bad, and that's going to get us sued. He can't wear that here."
What a mess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most cool band name in the world, but at the end of the day, it's just a band.
Yep. Just the band. What was that song? Thou shalt always kill. You ever hear that one? Dan.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm actually a pretty big Bad Religion fan myself. I don't look the part, but I'm pretty punk.
Nice. Um,
I look,
Brock Johnson, voter in Illinois here. Which district is Ian running for, and where is it? See, you were totally like, yeah, we should put the district number in the title, and I was like, man, nobody's gonna know where that is.
Brock, thanks for asking. I'm in the 115th district. It's the Mount Vernon area and gerrymandered all the way down somehow into the Carbondale area too.
Ooh.
Interesting, interesting thing about my district is that there's towns in my district that are an hour, 20 minutes away, and I have to drive through towns that are 20 minutes away, 15 minutes away that aren't in my district to get to the towns that are.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. If you ever get bored, look at Illinois' 115th district on a map. It's a shape you've never seen before. You learn something.
mm, I like shapes. I was talking about how so we're giving away this piece of metal which has such a shape that it's regulated by the United States government just because of its shape. Um, and so when we ship it to the winner, we have to ship it to an FFL dealer,
Hmm.
which totally sucks. Which district did you say it was?
115th.
115th. I'm gonna look this up. Um, but of course, you know what they say: real districts have curves. Um, yeah, it's absolutely nuts, and like I see this every time I have someone on the show. It's like you guys couldn't just like make a bunch of little bubbles and like. This looks like a. I'm trying to like see what it. Okay, let me. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share this to anybody watching. But tell me, what is the biggest issue facing your district?
There's a ton of them. If you're talking really locally, specifically locally here in Illinois' 115th, here in Southern Illinois, people hear Illinois, they think Chicago. I could drive to Kentucky and back twice in the time it would take me to drive to Chicago. So we're basically northern Kentucky down here, redneck country. People here, Republicans, Democrats, and everything in between, they are tired of Chicago politics kind of dictating their lives when it comes to gun rights, when it comes to taxes. Chicago has 60% of the population, so Chicago has 60% of the state representatives in the state Senate. Would you just look at that
Wow.
shape? Like, what is that?
60 Chicago's got 60% of the state. Basically, like, Chicago's making rules for the rest of the state that doesn't
Yeah,
live anywhere
simply.
near Chicago.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. A lot of us don't even go to Chicago. We hate it there. It's a cesspool. uh,
This is like, where is Chicago on this map? There's St. Louis.
you're gonna have to scroll up.
It doesn't. This is just like I don't know what this is.
So
Wikipedia,
it's about a four
Battlepedia.
and a half, depending on what. I live right there in Mount Vernon, right, and if you look at that first square,
Ah,
just
right there.
yep, right there. From that Interstate
See, that's a
57 there, it's about 4.5 hours, depending on what part of the city you're going to. Maybe 5 hours, depending on traffic.
that's a nice solid shape there. Oh, I just realized like I'm that's weird. I'm not sharing this for everybody else. Well, here, let me.
Oh,
Um, yeah, sorry, technical difficulties. We had some fun technical difficulties this morning, or this app. Sorry, I can't even talk. Before we started the show, but yeah, okay. So here it is for anybody watching. Yeah, there we go. I'm getting the comments. Blank screen. Dan, where's your
oh.
vermin pin? Oh my,
Where is your vermin pen?
I'm not wearing my vermin pin.
Is it because
It
you're in
is.
against them?
It would normally be right next to my little podcasting station here, but since I moved, it is on my desk at my old podcasting station. I'm gonna have to bring that back. But yeah, actually, this does kind of look like Vermin Supreme in a way. This district.
I guess if it's shaped like anything, it's shaped like vermin. You can see the beard there down into Jackson County. The interesting thing
Yeah.
about this district is that a lot of cities are cut in half, and towns they're cut in half.
Oh wow,
Where those are drawn, yeah.
that's insane.
So
And so yeah, and it's always important to remember the reason why they do this. Usually they'll like divide a city in half and be like, oh well, that half of the city is black, so therefore we're good with the black votes with the candidate that we always run here, and so we're going to divide all the cities in half and take those sides. And then the other district where we have our other candidate from the same party who's good with the white districts, we'll take the white half of the city and we'll stick it in their district.
right.
This shit it's racist, it's classist, it's I mean, well, I guess okay, maybe it's not because the issue is not to divide people based on race or class. It's really just to say, no, this is how we can manipulate you the best.
Right. It is politically expedient for the powers that be. They do it for a reason.
Yeah, this is, and I mean, look at this top like square part. You got a nice square shape in the top. Why couldn't they just make them all the same?
Right.
But this is interesting. Like you're talking about Chicago that's massive, and I'm sure it's kind of the same in other states. I grew up in Los Angeles, and like a lot of states are like that. If you look at the map of the United States of America, most states actually just have like one or two really big cities in them, and the rest of it's
Yeah.
farmland.
Yeah.
And sometimes their really big cities aren't even that big, but those cities dictate how people in the outside need to live. And like this is the same argument we hear all the time, and I think a lot of people understand this and they're really pissed off with it, but they don't know what to do about it, or they're just trusting the politicians to fix it, or like but I mean it's the same thing when you talk about like, oh yeah, California's got so many electoral votes and they're going to decide how the rest of the country is going to have their president. And there's I don't know, I see two issues to this. You were talking about, you like the Constitution and you want Illinois to be a constitutional state again, but like, and that would solve some of these problems on its own, because really, like, who cares who the president is if they don't have any authority over you, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you have Like, okay, I'm in Texas, California, and New York are a bunch of, let's just say, commies. I'm kidding, guys, but let's just say it's just all commies in California and New York, and they vote for the commie president. And now me in Texas, oh man, I'm gonna have to live under communism because those two states. No, that president should not have that power or authority to do anything like that. And
Right.
I mean, they kind of don't, but like they get away with bullshit like that because I guess people are just too ignorant and listen to it and just, oh yeah, he made an executive order and we're gonna follow it. It's not
That's
how it
about
works,
how it
guys.
works. Yeah. Yeah. And, you say I like the Constitution. I thought the Constitution was a great experiment. Um, when it was first drafted, this was going to be the most minarchist government ever in the history of the world, or at least in written history. Look what our country turned to. It's imperialistic. It's everywhere. It spies on its own citizens. It violates its own governing rules, the Constitution, every single day. So it's probably a failed experiment. But I think that the words contained within the document are good words. I think so long as government exists, that it's a good guideline for how government should function, how government should operate. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it should have more teeth. Um,
Right. Yeah, I
but the
mean,
words itself, the philosophy, it's good. It's good.
right. It's a good start. I mean, there's still things you could. It says Congress has the right to lay taxes. I'm not a fan of that one. Um,
No, I didn't know that about you.
although, what's interesting is the taxes in the Constitution are, if you read into it, I don't know if this is the right way to read into it, but they are a little bit more voluntary. Um,
Sure.
like, yeah, we can lay taxes if somebody's going to use our government service, but we're not going to force people to use that government service, and so therefore it's not stealing. Which
It's
kind
like
of,
if you don't want to pay for McDonald's, don't go to McDonald's.
yeah, and they just use the word tax because that's what it. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, but yeah, what I think is missing from the Constitution is, aside from all the bad parts, and some of those have been overturned, like calling people 3/5 of a person, which really it didn't even. I don't know. That's debatable because like that was just fucking with the census is really what that was doing, um, but like that didn't even really have anything to do with rights, which people were slaves at that time, so it's not. They had much less than 3/5
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
time. So I guess they were weighing them a little more heavily for the census. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. But there's nothing in there that says, and when the government and when the politicians violate these rules, you have the right to tar and feather or just shoot them.
Right. No
That's
teeth. No teeth.
yeah.
We have this
Don't need the teeth.
constitution with all these things that the government's not allowed to do, and there's nothing to say what happens when the government tries to do that. I don't know if tar and feathering or shooting is the right thing. I think maybe firing that politician that introduces that bill that infringes on your gun rights or your First Amendment right to free speech or freedom of religion might be a better place to start than
Mm-hmm.
actual violence. But what do I know?
It's not violence if it's in self-defense.
Fair. Fair.
Um, yeah, I just got this really new, awesome wood chipper that I'm just itching for the right opportunity. Um, but yeah, and that's the thing. And what I find really weird, like, and like I don't know, like I thought about this once a while ago, and it's like every time I think about it, it becomes more and more apparent to me. Like they knew when they wrote the Constitution, they knew what was up. They knew where government goes. They wrote in the Declaration of Independence that we have a right to alter or abolish the government when it stops serving our needs and or becomes destructive. But they didn't put anything into their, like, I would have think like, okay, yeah, we're gonna make a new government and we just got rid of this king, but we know that governments get bad. So we should like put something in here that says when it gets bad, this is like, and this is the teeth again. Like, yeah, we can like, I don't know, the people can assemble and just say, you can go fuck yourself, and then that's it, and it's over, and it's gone. Like, something like, because, if the government is going to grow and become all powerful and get out of control and not within the bounds of the Constitution, then, somebody commented Molotov cocktails. Oh, that's Des. She's going crazy tonight. If you know that's going to happen, like, you can't expect, like, oh, yeah, but if that happens, it's okay. We'll just vote and change it. Like,
yeah, we put some words on a piece of paper, it'll be fine.
yeah, but I mean, like, when that happens, that's already going to be, like, long gone. That's not an option anymore.
I believe it was Thomas Jefferson that thought that there would be a bloody revolution, not just a revolution at the ballot box, but a bloody revolution fairly frequently in America after the founding documents were implemented. If you look at the very first president that we ever had, George Washington, the Whiskey Rebellion, it was the America's first civil war. You don't really hear about it too much in history class, but over a whiskey tax, people were ready to pick up muskets and go shoot their neighbors.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tax. I would have been pretty pissed too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We went, wait. We overthrew this government over a tea tax, and now they're going to come in with a whiskey tax?
Right, exactly. That was the mentality. That was the thought. Now, yeah, there was a lot more to it than the tea tax, but that's the one you hear about in history. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back. That's what sparked the revolution itself.
Yeah, and this was another thing I remember from reading the Declaration recently, because people used to always fire back with like, oh no, taxation without representation is theft. And I would just think, where did that even come from? And apparently that predates the Declaration even. But what I thought was interesting in the Declaration, because it doesn't mention a tea tax in the Declaration, but it does say taxation without consent, which I find a really interesting use of words. I mean, that's because we think of a tax as like mandatory, as like
right, an involuntary
taxation without
payment.
consent is redundant. So I think that's kind of interesting, but it's like yeah, okay, at the end of the day we have to understand these are all just words and they can mean a million different things. Is something bad going to happen to you if you don't pay it? That's the question.
Ask Erwin Schiff.
Oh, man. Poor guy. You know who sent me a text message today?
I do not.
Bannister. Out of nowhere.
I'm sorry?
Joe Bannister.
I know who that is, but maybe some of your listeners do not. Would you like to elaborate for those guys?
He is the former IRS agent who beat the IRS a dozen times.
Okay.
Yeah. He is the proverbial badass when it comes to the IRS. Yeah, we were actually we were talking about John McAfee and his situation, and I guess I knew this was gonna happen. Wait, no, I don't even know what's going on. Because are you familiar with John McAfee's latest? Sorry to go off topic here.
Yeah, I heard he got in a little bit of trouble for tax evasion. He had a lot of money that the IRS didn't know about. He had a yacht that the IRS didn't know about, which a lot of people would make jokes about losing their guns in a boating accident. I think he could have gotten off if he would have told the judge that he lost his boat in a boating accident, because I think the judge would have believed him. So on McAfee, but yeah, he's in some hot water now for some.
Has he had was there a trial? Was that for like this tax stuff? I didn't hear anything about this.
No, the trial hasn't taken place yet. I'm just offering him some legal counsel here.
Yeah, so so he was arrested in Spain. but he's been tweeting, and he apparently is fighting extradition now.
Yeah.
But but he's still got his phone. He's still is he in prison tweeting, or is he like in a Julian Assange type deal going on right now?
All I've seen is someone asked him how he's able to tweet in his current predicament, and his answer was, "Please pardon my French, but I am John fucking McAfee."
Oh, smuggled it in with the old prison pocket. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, but he is John fucking McAfee, and I'm sure he will be well in the months to come. But anyways, back to this guy Ian Peake, who is running for the House of Representatives for Illinois. I'm still looking at this map, trying to figure out what this is. It almost looks like one of the well, I guess that does look like Vermin Supreme too. One of the chefs on the Muppets with the crazy like floppy hat.
You're getting really creative. I've looked at this map a lot. Not long before I ever ran for office, years before I ever ran for office, and I could never determine just what exactly it looks like.
Wow, and it hasn't changed that much in those years.
Nope.
Oh wow, they usually change every other month. So, oh man. So Illinois, actually, yeah. Let's talk about this. When I was out there, they were. Do you have a state income tax already?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We do.
And they were trying to. There was a bill they were trying to pass, or a constitutional amendment to do something with it. They wanted to be able to change it at will whenever the hell they wanted, or something like that.
Exactly. Yes. The Illinois Constitution dictates what the policy is when it comes to the General Assembly, the governor, what they're allowed to do in terms of the tax code. That's not to say that prevents the state government from implementing a tax or raising your taxes or lower. We just our previous governor lowered our taxes down to 3.25%. Our current governor raised them back up to about 5%, with, of course, the aid of the General Assembly. So they do have some leeway, but there are some guidelines that they have to follow. Now, this fair tax amendment, I don't care if you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a Libertarian, or anything in between. When you are allowing the state government to alter the state constitution, let's say you're a hardcore Democrat and you support the current governor, Governor Pritzker's progressive income tax plan, you think it's fair, you think it's right, you think it's the best thing in the world for the state, and heck, maybe I'm wrong and you're right, and that's the case. What you're doing is you're giving power to the next Republican governor to go in there and fiddle with that tax code however he sees fit. So to the people that are out there supporting the progressive income tax, I really want you to think about, it's almost a libertarian trope. Would you give this power to your most hated enemy? And if not, then don't give it to the guy that you agree with.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because so I started going down this rabbit hole of no American has to pay the income tax. And what's interesting is if you look at the Illinois, the existing income tax, it's basically piggybacked onto the IRS's tax. So if you don't have to pay that tax, you don't have to pay this tax.
Right.
But it's really interesting because if you were to change the Constitution, the state constitution, and replace that with a different tax that is not piggybacked, what would that open? And this is an interesting question too, and maybe I don't know, maybe we need like a legal expert or something to comment on this. But what happens? So like if they make a law, and that law does not fit within the bounds of the Constitution, then you can have a court rule it as unconstitutional. But what happens when they change the Constitution to do something
exactly.
that is, it wouldn't be unconstitutional, but criminal?
And that's exactly what they're trying to accomplish here. And I don't think that Pritzker wants this. Our governor, his name's J.B. Pritzker. I don't think that he wants this power so that he can do criminal things. I think that he's already good enough at doing criminal things. He doesn't need extra constitutional authority to do so. I think that he wants this power because he wants to implement this quote unquote fair tax, this progressive tax that he has in mind that will help balance the state budget because we are nowhere near a balanced budget in Illinois. I think that his intentions are pretty. His heart's in the right spot. His head's up his ass. It's just, who's the next governor going to be? What's the General Assembly going to look like in 20 years? Who's going to comprise the General Assembly here? Like, who are we giving this power to? We don't even know. We don't even know the answer to this question. If you look at the, and I'm no Donald Trump fan by any means. I hope that goes without saying. But if you look at the Democrats' response to Donald Trump winning the White House and all this authority this man has, that right there should be a glaring red flag to the left that giving this sort of authority to the next guy could be a terrible, terrible idea, and we should really think twice before we do that. And I want balanced budgets as much as the next guy, but there's just no telling who's going to be sitting in the governor's office. Illinois has 5 out of the 8 last governors in a row in prison for corruption, and this is the type of people that seek this office, and this is the type of person that we're willing to wrest this power over to. I think it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm over on the Illinois. I don't know what website this is. Illinois. It says Illinois.gov, but I guess this is the Revenue Department. And because I've seen this on some other states, so I was just like, okay, let me search for the word growth. And it's really, I was looking at this in Iowa, and they actually say, I mean, it looks like you're reading a corporate, like, you know, whatever, shareholders, like, newsletter, where it says, yeah, we're focusing on a 10% growth this year. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys are fucking, like, supposed to be raising what it takes to run the state. You're not supposed to be growing.
Right.
But it's, so I'm at this this Illinois website, and there's this news article here. Pritzker administration announces $100 million milestone in cannabis revenue collected. So, like, oh yeah, we got milestones here. We're gonna try to rob the people of all we possibly can. Let's make some milestones here so we can track our progress. What do they need? Do they need that money for? I mean, I'm sure, like every other state, they're probably like spending more than they're earning anyway, so they could always use more money. But
yeah.
Yeah, this is just it's insane when you read these things, because it's like, to them it's just like, oh yeah, we like, what was the I think it's like a Disney movie with like the snake or the king, and he's like, yes, my taxes. It used to be on the intro for the show. He's like, more taxes, raise the taxes.
Yeah. Robin Hood. I showed that to my niece last time I was visiting here. I think it's an important movie because it's the only child's movie I know where "death to tyrants" is a line that one of the actors say.
Oh, nice. I need to go watch that.
Rewatch it. It's actually, as an adult. I don't think it's just because I'm a libertarian. It's well acted. It's well voiced. The soundtrack's solid. It's beautifully animated. I'm a huge fan of like hand drawn animation. Everything's computers these days. It's a work of art for sure. And like I said, death to tyrants.
Death to tyrants. Yeah, that would be like doesn't Disney have a thing? They re-release all their movies every 7 years or something.
They have a thing now called Disney Plus. That's what people that live in 2020 use to watch Disney movies, I believe.
So how long, or maybe it's already happened, how long until they censor Death to Tyrants out of that movie?
Who knows? But I did watch it myself as an adult after showing it to my niece, just for fun. And it's so far, as of around Christmas time last year, Death to Tyrants is still in the movie.
Awesome.
Yeah. Here in 10 years, they'll make it out to where Robin Hood's actually the bad guy and Prince John saves the world from him.
All right, what's the personal property replacement tax? Illinois.
I don't. There's so many in Illinois; they're hard to keep track of. Is there like
I
a blurb or
Local
anything?
government's fiscal year 2021 estimate for replacement taxes. In accordance with current statute, the Illinois Department of Revenue is required to provide an estimated entitlement of the amount of personal property replacement taxes. Is that like a refund?
If I had to
Um,
guess, knowing the state of Illinois, that's if a tornado comes through and blows away your swimming pool, so you build a new one. You're just adding on to your property value that way. And but I'm not sure that, like I said, our tax code's so elaborate. Like you'd need a army of accountants and lawyers just to poke through it.
well, it's 1.2 billion dollars, and it's down from 1.5 billion dollars last year, or this year, I guess, 2020. Yeah, I'm looking at this and like I hate I honestly I hate reading these websites, but like once I start clicking on it, it's like, what do they mean by this? And then I have to like keep
Right.
clicking and digging, and it's like, yeah, like you really have to be a lawyer. Like, what are they talking about on this shit? Is that
It's
like,
oh, yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And the same people that support these elaborate tax codes and these progressive taxes are the same ones. And again, I'm no fan of Donald Trump. If you go to my personal Facebook page, I talk more smack about him than I did Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, um, or anybody that Trump ran against in the primary in 2016. But the same people that are in favor of these elaborate tax codes and these progressive income taxes are the same ones that are upset that Donald Trump somehow found a way to pay $750 in federal income taxes legally.
mm-hmm. And that's, well, yeah. See, that's an interesting one too, because I question whether or not he actually paid only 750, because he's got so many corporations. It's possible all his corporations paid a shit ton of money too.
I'm
Not to
sure, and I'm sure we
not to
paid,
defend him, but
state income taxes and this and that. It's just that we're focused on that one number, just to, what he
yeah,
paid to the federal IRS.
right.
Uh,
Yeah,
I'm
it's but
sure.
yeah, of course that's a I can't talk, political manipulation tactic they're trying to use. I
Sure,
guess
sure, yeah,
the
yeah.
Democrats are trying to use it. Um, of course, because they're pro tax. Billionaires should be paying so much more. Um, yeah, that's insane. But let's talk Illinois gun rights. You're a fan of the Second Amendment?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. And, beyond the Second Amendment, I think that you have a natural right, predating the Constitution, to defend your property, your family, your life, um, from aggressors in any form, however you see fit. And I think that the Second Amendment is actually an extension of that natural right. Uh, it would appear that the Illinois state government does not agree with me. We are the only state, I do believe we are the only state left where you have to have a separate identification card just for gun ownership in the first place. If you want to conceal carry, so let's say that you live in a dangerous neighborhood and you want protection on you, that's $500 every 2 years. So if you are living in a dangerous neighborhood and you're poor, that's probably not a priority for you. You're probably more concerned with keeping the lights on. I realize that I'm speaking from an ivory tower here, and I hope that I'm not coming across as classist or anything, but I just don't think that it's okay to charge people for their constitutional rights. The FOID card, the firearm owner's ID card, is, I believe, $250 every 2 years. You have to renew it; it expires. If you, let's say you were talking about a piece of metal that's a certain shape, and if you wanted to sell it to me, we'd have to do it through a legal gun dealership. We couldn't just do it like a flat screen TV on Facebook Marketplace. You have to get bureaucrats involved. You have to get licenses involved. It's ridiculous. And this is, like I said, this is Southern Illinois. Even the Democrats like their guns down here. This is redneck country. Everybody hunts. Everybody, has at least an old 22 sitting in their closet that they inherited from their granddad or something. Um, and again, it's because Chicago, which is rife with gun violence, basically controls Illinois politics. Doesn't matter what section of the state you live in. It's they have 60% of the population. They have 60% of the representatives. And Chicago is big in favor of gun control. If you look at the crime statistics in Chicago, you have to ask yourself, like, how well is this actually working?
Right. And this is something that comes up a lot, believe it or not. That is is the crime rate high because guns are illegal, or are the guns illegal because the crime rate is high, like a chicken and the egg thing?
Yeah, it's a
Um,
good question. You could wax
but it's
poetic about it all day long. And we all know that causation does or correlation does not equal causation. But if you look at states like Texas, where they're very heavy on your Second Amendment right to firearm ownership, you look at the gun crime rates in Texas has no fewer than 3 metropolitan areas. If you look at the gun crime there, it's a lot lower than in places like Chicago, New York, California, where the gun control laws are a lot higher. And I don't want to sit here and make a claim that it's because those gun laws are more lax that there's less gun crime, but I think there is an argument to be made that if you know your neighbor is unarmed, you're going to be more likely to aggress upon them for their stuff.
what's the because like I wonder. And I mean, there's you're right. I mean, there's a million arguments that can be made. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter how high the crime rate gets. There's absolutely no reason you should ever have your rights taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Because and criminals don't follow the laws anyway. All these things. But
Right,
like,
right.
I guess what I'm curious about is like, okay, let's forget about forget about like the gun laws for a minute, and just think about like what is so wrong with a place like Chicago that they have such a high gun violence issue. Because I would think, I mean, like, here's the thing: you go to, I don't know, a little town in Texas where everybody has guns, and you take their guns away, they're not going to start robbing each other overnight. I don't think. Um,
Good point. Yeah.
so, like, is it just a cultural thing? Is it just the political thing? I mean, like, we hear that there's like total corruption in politics, like. But and maybe for this we have to look at like what's the motivation? Is this mostly like people killing their husbands and wives, or is it mostly like people trying to rob stores for cash? Like in which case, okay, maybe then you could make the poverty argument. Um,
I do think that a lot of it has to do with economics. Yeah. Yeah. If you're hungry, if your kids are hungry, you're going to do what you have to do. If you can't find a job because your previous job was regulated out of existence or taxed out of existence or quarantined out of existence, what are you going to do if you got 3 hungry kids at home? I
right.
think it's also psychology teaches us like statistics show that people that grow up in a single parent home tend to be more prone to various crimes, whether it's drug possession to violent crimes. Um, and the reasons for that are over my head. I'm no psychologist. I'm just a guy that works in a tire factory. But when you look at the drug war, when you look at the mass incarceration in this country, when you look at how many single parent homes exist because of victimless crimes that you can still get caged for, I think you're really expanding on the problem. So I think that these problems are really concentrated in big cities where you have a mass concentration of the population. I don't know if it's come up yet or not tonight, but 60% of the population of Illinois lives in this one town. Um, I think that yeah, it's an economic thing. It's a nature versus nurture thing. I think that there's a lot of factors that go into these problems that we see every day, and
Yeah.
they're all the government's fault.
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with you on that one. Yeah. I mean, so okay. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I moved. I mean, I moved a bunch of times. I moved like all around Los Angeles, but it was still always just like this crowded, ridiculous metropolis thing where, like, no matter how far out of the city I moved, and, like, never that far, probably like the valley was the furthest, the San Fernando Valley where all the porn comes from, um, and just had to throw that out there. But it was still part of the city, and then I moved to San Antonio, which I mean, it's still a pretty decent sized city, but it was much, much less crowded. There were actually houses, places like in LA. Man, like I don't. There are very few places in LA that actually have houses. There are neighborhoods like, I mean, this is their thing, right? They would tear down houses and build apartments. Um,
Right.
like there aren't a lot of neighborhoods that actually have houses in them. Um, and you go to San Antonio and it's like tons of neighborhoods that actually have houses in them. And like things are further apart. There's not so much traffic, and it's like I remember, like I remember like some of my observations just from like just going there, from making that transition, was people were a lot nicer, and maybe that's because, maybe not. I remember I was feeling a lot less tense because I wasn't sitting in traffic all the time. I wasn't going through like all these, and that's not to say like right downtown, yeah, there's plenty of that stuff, but like it was really like I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders going to like getting out of a big city like that, which is weird because a lot of people are like dying to get into those big cities, except for New York right now. Everybody's trying to leave, but um, but yeah, I think that's really interesting. That's like more of the psychology that potentially fuels some of these issues.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is a cultural thing. You talk about Los Angeles. I've visited there a couple of times. I love this. It's a cool city to visit. I don't know what it's like to live there, but I had a blast both times. I had the pleasure of staying there for a week or so. In my town, if you're walking down the sidewalk, if you're walking down the aisle at Walmart or the mall or wherever, and you pass somebody, you greet somebody, there's always a nod or a wave or a smile or some sort of like acknowledgement of them. When I was walking down the sidewalk in Los Angeles, I was greeting a lot more people, just meeting a lot more people that were walking the other way, and I'd always just had a habit giving that nod or that smile or whatever, that acknowledgement, that silent greeting, and I never got one in return.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because people I don't think it's because people in Los Angeles are inherently mean. I think it's a cultural thing. It's something that we do in Southern Illinois that they don't do in Los Angeles. It wasn't that nobody wanted
Right.
to smile
Well,
at me. It's just
I think I mean because like I felt some of that too, and like I know, like I mean this, I'm just making hypothesis here, but I think like part of that is one, you don't like, I mean, you just don't want to make eye contact because like, oh, I don't want this person, like I don't want people to like stop and talk to me ever, like I've got a place to go. I just sat in
right.
traffic for an hour and a half. I don't want to like somebody like try to make small talk and sell me something, which there's plenty of that shit. You walk around a mall and it's like, yeah, yeah, come here, no, it's free, Joe, just come here for a second, have you ever tried this salt? um
Right. Would you like to take a survey?
yeah, like yeah, there's yeah. Um, so yeah, I totally feel that. But God, I hate big cities, man. I'm practically out in the woods now.
Yeah. So am I. I live in the woods. It's pretty cool. If I go 30 yards this way, I'm in the woods. If I go 300 yards that way, I'm at a gas station. I have the best of both worlds. My
Awesome,
house
awesome,
looks like it's in the Shire, but I'm within walking distance of civilization, so it's pretty cool.
and probably no riots up the street.
No riots up the street. No. We've had some peaceful protests in Mount Vernon, up the street, actually.
Yeah,
But
I
no
mean
riots.
that's kind of the thing, right? Like that. I mean, another big thing about big cities is you've got all of those people. It's like a pressure cooker of people who are like pissed off.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I love to visit a city. I live in a redneck town. It's nice to like go to a town where there are things to do besides
yeah,
going to the bar or whatever. We have a pretty cool bowling alley. That's like what I do for fun. I, my average is like 80 or 90 points a game. I'm not even good at bowling. That's still what I do to get out of the house. But yeah, I value my me time, my space. I couldn't imagine, like you say, like I would be one of the people rioting. I imagine if I had to live in the city for 20 years.
Yeah.
Let's just burn some of this down so we can have a little breathing room.
Yeah. So, guys, anybody who's listening who lives in a big city, move somewhere smaller. Um,
Somewhere close, you can still visit. You can have still, like I'm an hour away from St.
yeah.
Louis.
Yeah. I mean, totally.
It's nothing for me to go over to the city to like enjoy the city for 4 hours, 6 hours, even a weekend. But at the end of the day, I get to go back to my little cabin in the woods.
And it's funny because, like, you see like these memes going around all the time. It's like, okay, you get this cabin for free, but you don't get to talk to anybody for like a year or so. I don't know, like some and like everybody's like, oh
Yeah,
yes, I would totally do that. And then it's like, you guys know you could probably leave the city for some place like that, and you'd be saving money.
yeah, and you could do that this month.
Yeah, exactly. You don't
Yeah,
need to wait for like somebody to do some weird creepy giveaway, or like, yeah, that but
right.
the house is haunted. And people are like, yeah, I'll totally do it. Um, man. All right. Well, what else? What else you have going on your platform? What else? What would you do to the law? How would you destroy the government? Sorry. How would you change the law if you were elected?
A lot of my platform has to do with criminal justice reform, just because I don't believe in such thing as victimless crimes. I think that the term victimless crime is actually an oxymoron. I would rather call them non-crimes. So just seeing, let's say someone has a drug addiction problem, that it's a problem and it can lead to more violent crime, sure. But if all you're doing is shooting up on your couch, you're not getting out in public, you're not creating a disturbance, you're not robbing a liquor store to pay for your habit, you're not neglecting your kids because you're high. I I would rather see that person get treatment than get thrown behind bars. Um, it's just a step in the right direction. I disagree with the drug war, but vehemently, I would tear it down from the ground up if I could. But as a state representative, that would be impossible to do. So I think that offering a little, just those steps in the right direction is how you make your way. When Illinois first decriminalized cannabis, they made a great first step. My favorite thing about the decriminalization bill that became law was they expunged the records of 7,000 people that were behind bars.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. These people they're free now. They're working. They're back with their families, and I think that's a wonderful thing. The problem with the decrim bill here is that if you don't buy it from a licensed government, and they're privately owned, but government licensed marijuana dispensary, you're still breaking the law just as much as you were before we passed the bill in the first place.
Mm.
I think that's ridiculous. The science is in on this. It's a harmless plant. Um, to say that we can smoke this high grade medical weed, but not like the dirty ditch weed that my neighbor grows in the trailer park, it's absurd to me.
It's all about the
Especially
money.
we just released 7,000 people for doing just that. And it is. That's exactly what it is. It's all about the money. It's got nothing to do with keeping people from behind bars for what science has deemed as not just a harmless plant, but an actually very beneficial plant medicinally. It's about generating revenue for a failed state. I think that we just need to treat it like alcohol and wine. Slap an age limit on it, sure, but I should be able to buy it at Walmart. I should be able to buy it at the gas station. I should be able to buy it from my friend Matt. I should be able to buy it from my friend Dan. I should be able to produce it at home for myself and my friends and my family. Um,
Did you
psilocybin.
just call me out as being your drug dealer?
I don't have a drug dealer actually. I don't personally partake in the use of cannabis. I just think that if you do, you should not be thrown behind bars for it. Um, Psilocybin's the same way. It's not only harmless, but it has a lot of medicinal value. It's something that a lot of religions use for spiritual, religious things. And we talk about we have the First Amendment right to freedom of religion, but if your religion includes the occasional use of psilocybin mushrooms, and you're not allowed to practice, and is that freedom of religion? I don't know. I don't think so. Um,
Right.
It's another substance that's been deemed not only harmless but just medicinally beneficial for a bunch of people. So my platform really explicitly talks about following Denver's model for what they did when they decriminalized mushrooms. We're seeing doctors using them for treatment. We're seeing people can use them for recreational purposes, for religious purposes, whatever. It's a substance that people that use, it's people that do, partake, like they treat this substance with respect. It's not just like just some rampant street drug that's got everyone all hopped up robbing liquor stores.
Right. Yeah, I don't know anybody who's really ever OD'd on mushrooms.
I don't think it's scientifically possible to overdose on mushrooms. I think worst case
Oh.
scenario, you just have a really bad night, but you don't leave your couch.
Man, yeah, it's and I mean you talk a lot about the medicinal aspects of it, and those are all really good points. But at the same time, I always like to say, I always like to remind everybody, it doesn't even matter if there was not a single medicinal purpose. If there's a new drug on the street today and people used it just to get high, there's absolutely nothing good about it. The government has no right to protect us from ourselves.
Sure, I agree with that 100%. I think that goes without saying. It's just like I say, regards to my platform, you can have a pretty pragmatic platform in Illinois, and it's a pragmatic platform uh, is a very radical step for a state like this. And I'm like you. I'm a pretty radical libertarian. I consider myself a voluntarist. I think I get lumped into the anarchist
Yeah.
classification quite a bit, and I'm fine with that. Some of my best friends are anarchists, so. But yeah, my personal beliefs and what I'm promising to the voters, I promise I'm not going to take you on that wild ride until my reelection bid in 2022. After we've accomplished everything that we're talking about now, we're going to take that next step.
Nice. Awesome. Well, if somebody wants to help you get elected, where can they go? What can they do?
I got pretty lucky with my last name. If you go to peakliberty.com, PEAK,
Nice.
/donate, there's a handy little application there that accepts PayPal. It accepts all major forms of credit cards. If you're old school and you really want to mail us a check, if you just go to peakliberty.com, drop me an email. Yeah, Ian Peak at peakliberty.com. Find me on Facebook, Ian Peak for Illinois State Representative. Shoot me a message. I'll get you an address. Um, if you live in my district, all you have to do is pull a lever for me. That doesn't cost you anything. If you want to help, if you live in the area, anywhere, within driving distance of Illinois 115th, we need help hanging door hangers all over the neighborhoods. If you live anywhere in the world and you have a phone and you want to make phone calls for me, we're starting that up now too. Just contact the campaign and give me your money.
Nobody should use checks. And if you accept checks, you're only enabling. I swear.
I haven't.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go off on a rant here. Checks are like the absolute most insecure banking instrument on the face of the planet. And banks will still pressure you to get a checkbook even if you don't want them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got your
I haven't.
account number right on the fucking paper. That's that's insane. Anyways, um, Ian, thanks for joining. This has been an awesome talk. Um, I guess give take us out with some words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. I'll part with this. When people go out there, when the media goes out there, when politicians go out there and say that libertarianism is a radical philosophy, they're lying to you. Libertarianism is the philosophy of don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. It doesn't matter if your parents were Republicans, Democrats, socialists, communists, libertarians, or anything in between. They taught you this in kindergarten. Authoritarianism is a radical concept, saying that you should be locked in a cage for doing something to your body that harms no one except for perhaps yourself. That is a radical concept. Saying that our brothers and daughters and brothers and daughters and sisters and sons and husbands and wives and friends and family should die and be made to fight and die in other countries' civil wars. That's a radical concept. Don't believe the hype. Libertarianism is the least radical political philosophy out there, and it's the most compassionate, and it's the most utilitarian.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks again for joining, and to everybody listening, thank you for tuning in on Facebook and YouTube. If that's where you're watching this, make sure to share the love with your friends. Get them all on the Liberty train. Get them all this amazing information. If you want this on the podcast, or if you're already on the podcast, make sure you subscribe. We are on the iTunes Store and Google and everywhere else that you find your favorite podcasts. We're there. Just look for Taxation is Theft. And until next time, I'll see you guys. I'm going to make sure I press the right button this time. I'll see you guys later. Taxation is Theft.